Tonight, we're going to look at something that seems small and strange, but is one of the most touching events in the natural world: a penguin. You've seen penguins many times before. Scientists study them often when they talk about oceans and ice. But here's what most people don't realize. When you truly understand why this penguin walked away from the sea, when you grasp where it was trying to go, it changes how you see animal behavior. This was not just a bird that got lost. It was a journey so unusual that it puzzled experts and captured attention around the world. And by the end of this journey, you're going to understand what happened, why scientists were watching closely, and why this lonely walk mattered more than it first appeared. Before we go any further, if you enjoy this kind of calm and thoughtful story, a quick like or subscribe really helps the channel grow. It's a small thing for you, but it makes a big difference for me. Now let's begin. In a remote stretch of the Antarctic coast, a lone emperor penguin began a journey that would soon capture the attention of the world. This penguin, unlike its thousands of companions, turned away from the colony and the familiar sea. The colony was a dense cluster of black and white bodies, huddled together on the firm ice, their movements synchronized as if the entire group were a single organism. The calls of adults and chicks mixed in the air, rising above the crunch of footsteps on snow. Yet, this one penguin stepped away from that rhythm, walking in a slow, steady line toward the distant mountains that rose sharply from the frozen plains. Its path did not lead to the feeding grounds where the ocean promised fish and krill. Instead, it led inland, toward an expanse almost devoid of sustenance, toward the harsh and empty interior. The snow beneath its feet was uneven, shaped by wind into ridges and small drifts that could trip the unwary. Ice crystals sparkled in the low sunlight, giving the frozen landscape a sharp brightness, while shadows of the mountains stretched long across the plains. The air was frigid and dry, carrying a bitter cold that penetrated through the penguin's thick feathers. Each step required effort, each movement measured. Scientists observing such behavior noted that penguins usually follow established paths to the sea and back. They move with the colony in coordinated lines, conserving energy and maintaining contact. This penguin's decision to walk away was rare and unexplained, a deviation from the instincts that had guided generations before it. The mountains in the distance seemed vast and impossible. They were layered with ice, their rocky peaks sometimes hidden by drifting clouds. To a penguin, these peaks offered no food or shelter, only an inhospitable expanse that would test endurance and survival. Yet the penguin continued, unwavering. Its pace was deliberate, its head bobbing with the rhythm of walking. Observers, in the documentary footage, described the scene as haunting. Werner Herzog, narrating, called it a death march. Yet the bird's movement was not a matter of intention or defiance in human terms. It was a rare behavioral phenomenon, an example of disorientation or internal stress, unfolding in real time across one of the most extreme landscapes on Earth. The colony from which the penguin departed remained alive with motion. Chicks waddled between adults, seeking warmth and protection. The adults rotated positions within huddles to maintain heat, each bird sensitive to the bodies around it. Paths worn into the snow guided movement to feeding areas at the ice edge. Penguins returning from the sea would waddle up these paths, sliding occasionally on their bellies to conserve energy. In contrast, the solitary penguin moved across unbroken snow, leaving the familiar and safe routes behind. Scientists emphasize that such departures are exceptional. Emperor penguins are highly social and rely on group cohesion to survive the harsh winter months. The surrounding ice is vast, a seemingly endless sheet that absorbs sound and blurs the landscape. Small rises and depressions, created by snowdrifts and glacial flow, form a terrain that is difficult to navigate. Wind can sculpt snow into walls or trenches, and storms can arrive suddenly, reducing visibility to nearly zero. Penguins use visual cues and possibly magnetic orientation to navigate, but the interior of Antarctica is far less structured than the coastal zones. Any individual venturing inland faces challenges that the colony does not. A path once familiar can vanish under fresh snow. Ice may crack underfoot, forming hidden crevasses. Every step taken by the lone penguin was a move into uncertainty, guided by instinct, yet confronted by unfamiliar conditions. The viral nature of this footage arises not only from the penguin's action, but also from the emotional resonance it evokes. Herzog's narration, quiet and contemplative, frames the march in a way that invites reflection on isolation, instinct, and survival. Viewers around the world saw an individual stepping away from a structured society, moving toward an uncertain and perilous environment. While scientists explain the behavior as likely disorientation or stress-induced deviation, the imagery itself communicates a stark contrast between the safety of the colony and the vulnerability of solitary movement. The penguin's journey is a lens through which the audience perceives the extremity of the Antarctic landscape and the resilience required to navigate it. The Antarctic coast, where the colony thrives, is dotted with icebergs and small rock outcrops. These features influence the behavior of penguins, providing shelter from wind or influencing the location of feeding grounds. Krill and fish gather near the edges of ice shelves, shaping the daily routines of adults traveling between nest and ocean. The colony occupies a narrow but strategic zone, balancing access to food with protection from predators. The solitary penguin's deviation bypasses these advantages entirely. It walks across territory that offers no sustenance and no cover, a stark contrast to the intricate survival strategies honed over generations. Observers note that such behavior is exceedingly rare, making the viral footage both scientifically interesting and visually striking. Light and weather in the Antarctic interior add layers of challenge. During summer months, the sun remains low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the ice. Even brief storms reduce visibility, and temperatures can drop suddenly. The wind sculpts snow and ice, forming patterns that can mislead navigation. Penguins rely on memory of landmarks and possibly magnetic cues, but the open, uniform ice of the interior provides little reference. As the penguin marches toward the mountains, each movement occurs in a landscape that is indifferent to life. Snow drifts, hard ice, and occasional open water make the terrain unpredictable. The endurance displayed by the penguin, moving steadily across this expanse, underscores the unusual nature of its journey. The colony's density contrasts sharply with the emptiness the penguin faces. Thousands of birds huddle together, exchanging warmth and reinforcing social bonds. Calls echo across the ice, identifying mates and chicks, maintaining cohesion. Within this group, paths to feeding grounds and back are well established. The solitary penguin has left these paths entirely. Observers describe the visual of one black and white body, moving across endless white plains as both haunting and compelling. Every step represents isolation, every wobble a reminder of the harsh conditions that define the Antarctic interior. This juxtaposition between collective safety and solitary exposure is central to the viral power of the footage. Scientists watching the footage highlight the uniqueness of the behavior. Emperor, Penguins are adapted to their environment with strong instincts for returning to the colony and following established patterns. The rare departures documented over decades are usually short-lived. Most individuals return or are gently redirected by the colony's social pull. This penguin, however, moves away with determination, continuing toward the mountains despite the lack of food or shelter. While Herzog frames the scene with emotional weight, scientific observation frames it as a glimpse into the boundaries of natural behavior, showing what happens when instinct and environment interact in unusual ways. The viral penguin is thus a subject of both public fascination and scientific study. The Antarctic interior stretches endlessly toward the horizon. Snowfields rise and fall with glacial flow, and hidden cracks pose constant hazards. Winds carry fine ice crystals that sting exposed surfaces, while temperatures hover well below freezing. The mountains ahead are formidable, their peaks obscured by clouds and ice. Yet the penguin moves steadily, its small form marked against the immense whiteness. Each step is deliberate. Observers note that even minor deviations in gait could affect balance and energy expenditure. The journey is slow but persistent, emphasizing the physical challenge faced by an animal built for social cohesion rather than solitary endurance in the heart of the continent. Finally, the viral penguin's march demonstrates a striking contrast between life within the colony and life in isolation. Within the group, survival is collective. Movement, feeding, warmth, and protection all depend on the cooperation. Outside the colony, the penguin encounters a world defined by its own scale, indifferent and dangerous. This journey, captured on film, illustrates how extreme environments shape behavior and survival. While scientists interpret the movement as disorientation or stress response, the imagery itself communicates the fragility, resilience, and determination inherent in life at the edge of habit and instinct. The penguin becomes both a subject of study and a symbol, a living measure of the Antarctic's challenge and the boundaries of natural behavior. Life within an emperor penguin colony is defined by rhythm and routine. Each day is structured around the basic needs of feeding, breeding, and caring for young. Adults dive into the icy water to catch fish, squid, and krill. Hunting requires patience and energy. Penguins swim using their flippers to propel through water, moving with grace and speed. Each dive can last several minutes, sometimes reaching great depths to find prey. The cold is intense, yet layers of feathers and fat protect them, allowing survival in conditions that would be lethal to most birds. Hunting trips are repeated daily, punctuating the slower, measured life on land. On the ice, movement is deliberate. Penguins waddle carefully, sliding occasionally on their bellies to conserve energy. The colony is alive with sound. Calls rise above the crunch of snow, signaling location, alerting to danger, or maintaining group cohesion. Adults adjust their movements in response to those around them. Chicks huddle close to parents, learning the patterns of the colony. Even small deviations can ripple across the group, showing how interconnected life is within the community. The colony operates almost as a single organism, each individual aware of its neighbors, constantly balancing the need for space with the need for warmth and safety. Breeding is central to their life cycle. In the harsh winter, when temperatures fall drastically, males arrive first at breeding sites. They huddle together, forming dense circles that rotate slowly, each penguin taking turns at the windward edge. When females return from the sea, they carry eggs and pass them carefully to the males. The male protects the egg in a brood pouch on his feet, fasting for weeks, relying on stored energy to maintain warmth. chicks hatch in the depths of winter, requiring immediate protection. The female returns periodically with food, regurgitating partially digested fish to nourish the chick. Chicks grow quickly, developing feathers that will later allow them to swim and hunt. Every step in this process depends on cooperation and timing within the colony. Social life in the colony is subtle but precise. There is no strict hierarchy, yet patterns of behavior show awareness and coordination. Adults recognize mates and chicks by voice alone, even among thousands of others. Calls are distinct and learned, allowing instant identification. Movement is similarly structured. Paths to feeding areas are worn into the ice, repeated season after season, guiding adults and young alike. Penguins adjust steps to avoid collisions, balancing speed and caution. Cooperation ensures survival, particularly during storms or periods of extreme cold. The colony functions as a system where instinct and experience reinforce one another, maintaining the rhythm of life. Daily movement between nests and the sea is predictable and organized. Penguins follow established paths, navigating ice ridges, sastrugi, and occasional cracks. Even in strong winds, they maintain direction, moving with the collective knowledge of the colony. Trips to the ocean are essential for food, and the sea itself is a place of risk. Leopard seals patrol near ice edges, waiting for opportunity. Coordination within the colony mitigates risk. Individuals move in lines, keeping close to others for protection. Young penguins learn these routes by observation and repetition, gradually internalizing the spatial layout of the colony and surrounding ice. Disorientation is uncommon but possible. Storms can obscure landmarks, drifting snow can erase paths, and shifts in ice can change terrain. A penguin temporarily separated from its usual route may lose bearings. Scientists observe that most individuals quickly return to familiar patterns, guided by instinct and memory. Rarely, environmental stress or neurological factors may lead a penguin to depart entirely from the colony's path. Such deviations are notable because they interrupt the precise order that defines life in the colony. Observing these occurrences provides insight into the limits of instinct under extreme environmental conditions. The viral penguin's behavior illustrates one of these rare deviations. While most adults adhere strictly to group patterns, this individual moved away from the colony and the feeding grounds. Scientists emphasize that such departures are not intentional in the human sense. Rather, they reflect rare responses to stress, disorientation, or subtle neurological influences. Each step the penguin takes is into a world where the usual social cues and survival strategies are absent. The journey highlights the delicate balance between instinct, environmental challenge, and social reinforcement within the colony. Feeding and chick-rearing trips reinforce colony cohesion. Adults returning with food pass by others in a practiced rhythm. Young penguins follow older ones, imitating movement, learning the safest paths, and understanding the timing of departures and returns. These repeated behaviors are survival strategies, passed across generations. The viral penguin abandons these routines, venturing into terrain with no food or shelter. Its march underscores the contrast between collective order and solitary exposure, providing scientists with a rare opportunity to observe behavior outside the standard pattern. Even small environmental changes affect the colony. Ice thickness, snow cover, and wind direction influence walking paths and feeding strategies. Predators shape where colonies establish themselves, while ocean currents dictate where prey accumulates. Penguins rely on this interconnection between land, ice, and sea to survive. A solitary penguin, removed from these feedback systems, encounters obstacles not just physical, but ecological. The interior is unfamiliar, offering no cues or resources to guide survival. In this sense, the viral penguin exemplifies what happens when the balance between social guidance and instinct is disrupted. Every movement in the colony, from huddling to foraging, is part of a larger cycle. Parents alternate between guarding chicks and hunting, maintaining warmth and providing nourishment. Adult penguins learn the spatial layout of the colony, recognize their mates and offspring, and follow the precise rhythm necessary for survival. Observing this behavior shows how life in the colony is highly structured. The rare act of leaving these routines, as the viral penguin did, highlights both the strength of collective instincts and the vulnerability of an individual removed from the group. The contrast reveals the resilience inherent in the species and the fragility of solitary survival in Antarctica. Penguins communicate constantly. Vocalizations signal identity, alert to danger, or coordinate movement. Calls are precise, allowing recognition among thousands. This communication underpins the social order, ensuring that adults and chicks maintain contact even in blinding snow or harsh wind. Displacement from the colony removes access to these cues, leaving a penguin reliant solely on individual navigation. Scientists studying these events gain insight into the importance of social reinforcement for survival, showing that the viral march is not merely unusual, but also scientifically significant as a window into behavior under extreme conditions. The interior environment the viral penguin entered is unyielding. Snowfields extend for kilometers, winds sweep relentlessly, and ice forms unpredictable obstacles. Temperatures drop quickly, challenging endurance. Unlike the colony's structured environment, the interior provides no shelter, no easy routes, and no social support. Each step requires energy and balance. Observers note that the penguin maintains a steady pace despite these challenges, illustrating both the resilience of the species and the unusual nature of the behavior. The departure emphasizes the interplay between instinct, environmental stress, and isolation. Chicks in the colony continue to rely on their parents, following cycles of feeding and warmth. Adults monitor each other, adjusting positions within huddles to maximize protection. These coordinated movements reduce exposure and maintain energy efficiency. Disruption occurs when an individual leaves the group, highlighting how each penguin contributes to collective survival. The viral penguin's march shows the consequences of separation. Absence of social guidance, reduced access to resources, and exposure to extreme environmental conditions. Its journey contrasts sharply with the predictable, repetitive patterns that define the lives of colony members. The patterns of daily life extend to non-breeding periods. Adults continue to forage and maintain energy reserves. Trips to the sea require attention to currents, ice conditions, and predator presence. Movement remains largely collective, with juveniles learning from older adults. Even minor deviations from established paths can be costly. The viral penguin's march is a rare example of such a deviation, providing both visual drama and scientific interest. The behavior illustrates limits of instinctual navigation and the challenges faced by individuals separated from the colony's social structure. Observation of these events informs understanding of survival strategies in extreme environments. Finally, the life of emperor penguins is a constant negotiation between instinct, environment, and social structure. Daily routines maintain cohesion, feed chicks, and ensure survival against predators and harsh weather. Paths are learned and repeated, calls are precise, and huddles maintain warmth. When an individual steps outside these routines, As the viral penguin did, it faces isolation and unfamiliar terrain. Studying these rare deviations provides insight into behavior, endurance, and the role of social guidance in survival. The penguin's journey underscores the fragility and resilience of life in Antarctica, highlighting how exceptional behavior can illuminate the ordinary patterns that sustain colonies. The penguin's journey from the colony toward the mountains unfolds slowly, yet with remarkable persistence. Observers watching the viral footage note the steady rhythm of its gait. The head bobs with each step, wings slightly extended to maintain balance on uneven ice. Its feet leave shallow prints in the compacted snow, tracing a line that grows longer with every passing minute. The terrain is a mixture of smooth ice, wind-blown snow, and occasional ridges that rise sharply, requiring the penguin to adjust its posture. Each obstacle is met with measured care. When sliding slightly, it regains footing without hesitation. Its movement appears determined, almost mechanical, yet it carries an impression of exhaustion against the vast, empty background of the Antarctic interior. Distance is significant. The mountains in the background are estimated to be about 70 kilometers from the colony. Across this expanse, the penguin encounters a largely unbroken stretch of ice. Visual landmarks are few. Snow drifts shift constantly under wind, sometimes hiding minor crevasses that could present danger. Despite this, the penguin maintains a relatively straight course, indicating some internal orientation mechanism, even if imperfect. The pace is slow but steady, a series of deliberate steps that cover both small rises and broad stretches of flat ice. Observers remark on the endurance required for such movement, particularly for an animal adapted for social cohesion, rather than solitary navigation over long distances inland. Obstacles vary in type and scale. Sastrugi, the sharp wind-sculpted ridges of snow, form jagged patterns across the landscape. The penguin climbs and descends them carefully, adjusting the angle of its body to prevent slipping. Occasional patches of hard ice demand careful balance. Snowdrifts rise higher than the penguin's chest in some places, forcing a laborious climb or detour. The interior is deceptive. What appears smooth may conceal holes or thin ice. Despite these conditions, the penguin continues, seemingly aware of its own limitations. Each movement conserves energy, reflecting an instinctive understanding of the physical demands posed by the Antarctic terrain. Field observers note the penguin's condition. Its feathers are thick and insulating, slightly damp from occasional contact with snow. Yet they appear intact, offering adequate protection from the cold. Breathing is steady, not labored, suggesting that the penguin maintains energy reserves despite the long march. Body posture remains upright, head bobbing naturally. The wings, extended for balance, occasionally adjust to sudden changes in terrain. There is no sign of immediate distress, though the endurance required for the journey implies significant energy expenditure. Each step reflects both the limits and resilience of the species when removed from the familiar patterns of the colony. Experts who have studied penguin behavior recognize the unusual nature of this movement. Emperor penguins typically move in groups, following well-established paths to feeding grounds at the ice edge. Solitary departures of this length are extremely rare. Field researchers have observed occasional individuals wandering away for short distances, usually returning to the colony within hours. Longer journeys into the interior, particularly in the direction of the mountains, are uncommon. Scientists emphasize that such deviations are not necessarily intentional in the human sense. They may result from disorientation, stress, or neurological factors that alter behavior temporarily. The penguin's direction is noteworthy. Rather than moving toward the ocean, the established source of food, it proceeds inland, toward high terrain that offers no sustenance. The mountains rise in the distance, frozen and imposing, while the penguin navigates the flat stretches of ice with relative ease. The slope and altitude ahead present increasing difficulty. Observers note subtle changes in movement when the penguin begins to encounter rising snow and uneven footing. Each step requires careful adjustment, yet the penguin does not veer off course, maintaining a line that, if followed continuously, would lead directly to the mountainous interior. The footage captures moments of hesitation, though brief. When encountering a particularly deep snowdrift or ridge, the penguin pauses, reassesses its footing, and continues. These pauses are not prolonged but reflect awareness of the terrain. Its gaze remains forward, head moving with the rhythm of steps, indicating some sense of direction. While humans might interpret this as purpose or deliberation, scientists view it as a combination of instinct and environmental feedback. The penguin responds to physical obstacles and changes in snow texture, adjusting balance and energy use, demonstrating resilience under unusual conditions. Environmental factors influence the march. Winds sweep across the plains, sometimes strong enough to push snow against the penguin's body. Temperature remains low, and the air is dry, both conditions increasing energy expenditure. The sun hovers near the horizon, casting long shadows that can make depth perception difficult. Even minor slopes become significant, requiring more energy to climb. Ice patches are slick and reflective, challenging vision. Despite these variables, the penguin maintains movement. Its survival instincts, honed over millennia, allow it to navigate hazards without the guidance of the colony or visual landmarks typical of its usual routes. Experts have discussed the neurological aspects of such solitary departures. While penguins are highly adapted to social behavior, rare cases show individuals may act in ways that seem irrational. This viral penguin appears disoriented, yet exhibits remarkable coordination in movement. Researchers suggest that stress, environmental conditions, or subtle neurological factors may temporarily override standard behavioral patterns. Observations of similar behavior in other birds and animals show that solitary, prolonged departures are uncommon but documented. Each recorded case contributes to understanding the limits of instinct and the flexibility of survival strategies. Scientific attention also focuses on the penguin's energy management. Moving across unbroken ice without feeding opportunities requires careful conservation of reserves. Flapping wings minimally, stepping carefully, and choosing routes that reduce effort all indicate instinctual adjustment. Observers note that while the penguin's course leads to eventual danger, each movement demonstrates an internal balance between exertion and survival. Energy efficiency becomes critical as distance increases. Even small missteps could result in slips, loss of heat, or wasted effort. The penguin's ability to maintain a steady pace reflects both the resilience and vulnerability inherent in the species. The viral footage emphasizes visual contrast. The black and white body of the penguin moves across an endless white expanse. Snow sparkles under low sunlight. Shadows of the distant mountains stretch far across the plains, and the horizon seems to extend without limit. Observers describe the image as both striking and haunting. The penguin is alone, moving in a landscape designed for collective survival, highlighting the contrast between group behavior and individual exposure. This visual framing helps explain why the footage resonated globally. Drawing attention not just to the penguin, but to the extremity of the Antarctic environment it faces. Subtle variations in gait are observable in the footage. The penguin occasionally shifts weight from one foot to another, adjusting for uneven ice or snow drifts. Its head bobs rhythmically, a natural adaptation to walking, while its wings extend slightly for balance. Steps are deliberate, energy-conserving, and continuous. Even when negotiating minor obstacles, the penguin demonstrates an ability to adapt physically without losing course. These details illustrate the precise balance between environmental challenge and innate movement patterns. Though disoriented in direction, the penguin's coordination remains largely intact. Leaning on field commentary, experts note that the departure is not a reflection of intention, but a rare behavioral occurrence. Penguins are not capable of complex planning in the human sense. The march reflects a combination of environmental factors, instinct, and potential stress. Similar observations in other colonies have documented short-term wanderings, though the distance and persistence displayed by this individual are exceptional. Scientists consider the footage an opportunity to study the boundaries of behavior when a penguin is removed from its normal social and environmental context. Each frame provides insight into resilience, movement, and adaptation under extreme conditions. The mountains themselves are formidable. Covered with thick snow and ice, their slopes rise sharply, often hidden by clouds and wind. For a penguin, they present a barrier without resources. Crossing toward them requires stamina, balance, and continuous adjustment to footing. The viral penguin negotiates gradual rises and small ridges with measured steps. Each adjustment in posture, head movement, and wing placement conserves energy while maintaining direction. Observers note that such movement demonstrates both the physical capacity of the penguin and the strain imposed by isolation, environment, and disorientation. Finally, the march illustrates the delicate balance between instinct, endurance, and the social safety provided by the colony. Each step is taken without guidance from peers, relying solely on individual perception. The physical challenges of ice, snow, wind, and distance test limits. Yet, the penguin progresses steadily, revealing the adaptability and resilience inherent in the species. Experts emphasize that while the journey may seem purposive, it is an extraordinary example of how behavior can diverge from the collective, providing both scientific insight and a striking image of life at the edge of instinct and environmental challenge. Scientists studying emperor penguins note that solitary departures like the viral march are extremely rare, yet they reveal important details about the species and its environment. Most penguins rely on strong social instincts to navigate the colony and find food. Group movement, vocal recognition, and learned paths create a system that ensures survival. When one individual deviates, several factors may explain the behavior. Disorientation is a primary cause. Sudden storms, shifting ice, or snow that obscures familiar landmarks can confuse penguins. Unlike humans, penguins rely on instinct, memory of terrain, and possibly magnetic cues to maintain orientation. If these are disrupted, a penguin may stray from the colony, wandering in a direction that offers no resources or shelter. Neurological stress may also play a role. Like all animals, penguins can experience temporary changes in brain function due to fatigue, cold, or hunger. Stress from environmental conditions or social tension could affect judgment, reducing the ability to follow familiar paths. Field researchers note that even small deviations in instinctual behavior can have significant consequences in extreme environments. For a penguin, moving away from the colony removes both social guidance and access to food, dramatically increasing risk. the viral penguin demonstrates how delicate the balance is between instinct, environmental conditions, and survival. Each step away from the group exposes the bird to the full challenge of the Antarctic interior. Environmental factors contribute as well. Ice formations shift constantly, and snow may cover previously clear paths. Wind shapes sastrugi and drifts, creating new obstacles or hiding potential hazards like cracks or thin ice. Temperatures fluctuate, sometimes rapidly, requiring careful energy management. Penguins are adapted to withstand cold, but continuous movement across unbroken ice without access to food increases stress. Even minor changes in terrain or weather can push an individual outside the bounds of normal behavior. Researchers emphasize that the viral march is a combination of disorientation and environmental challenge, illustrating how extreme conditions can trigger unusual actions. Comparisons with other rare deviations help put this behavior in context. Field studies have documented cases of penguins wandering alone for short distances. These usually involve young or injured individuals, and most return to the colony quickly. Longer journeys into the interior are documented less frequently. In all observed cases, solitary walking is rare and often ends in failure to survive if the penguin cannot return to the group. These instances highlight how strongly penguins depend on social cohesion and collective navigation. The viral penguin, moving persistently inland, represents one of the most striking examples recorded, providing a unique opportunity for observation and study. Field biologists note the survival risks associated with solitary travel. Away from the colony, a penguin loses the benefits of warmth provided by huddling, the protection of numbers, and access to known feeding areas. Exposure to wind and cold increases energy expenditure, while obstacles in the terrain slow progress and further reduce reserves. Ice and snow present hidden dangers, including thin sheets over water or deep crevasses. Predators, though less common in the interior, are a risk near the coast. Every additional kilometre travelled alone compounds the potential for exhaustion or death. The viral penguin's march emphasizes the importance of social behavior for safety and survival in extreme environments. Experts suggest that even in the absence of clear physical causes, instinct alone may sometimes fail. A penguin separated from the colony may continue a course based on incomplete or misinterpreted cues. Observation shows that individuals can maintain a steady direction even when heading away from familiar territory. This indicates that orientation mechanisms may operate independently of social cues, but without correction from the group, mistakes can persist. The viral penguin's continuous movement inland exemplifies this phenomenon, illustrating the limits of instinct when environmental signals are misleading or absent. Other factors may include illness or injury. A compromised individual may respond unpredictably to stimuli, altering movement patterns. While the viral penguin does not show obvious signs of injury in footage, scientists acknowledge that subtle health issues could influence behavior. In extreme environments, even minor deficits in strength, coordination, or perception can lead to departure from typical patterns. Field records confirm that rare deviations can arise from a mix of physiological, neurological, and environmental pressures. Studying such cases helps researchers understand the resilience and vulnerability of the species under stress. The penguin's persistence highlights an important principle in animal behavior. While instincts guide most activity, they are not infallible. Extreme conditions, environmental unpredictability, and internal stress can all override normal patterns. Field biologists emphasize that these occurrences, though rare, are valuable for understanding species limits Watching the viral penguin allows researchers to observe endurance, navigation, and decision-making outside the context of collective behavior. Every step provides data on how penguins cope with energy expenditure, balance, and spatial awareness when removed from the colony's support system. Observation also extends to energy management. Penguins walking alone cannot rely on collective warmth or synchronized movement to conserve energy. Each step must be calculated to minimize effort. Adjustments to footing, wing positioning, and gait are subtle yet significant. Fatigue accumulates over distance, and without access to food, the penguin's reserves steadily decline. Environmental stresses, like wind and uneven ice, increase the energetic cost of movement. Field studies note that animals facing similar challenges without social support often fail to complete long journeys, highlighting both the resilience and fragility of the species. Comparison with other species shows that rare solitary behavior occurs in nature but remains exceptional. Many birds rely on social cues for orientation, feeding, and breeding. Deviations from group behavior often result in failure or death. For emperor penguins, whose life cycle is so tightly connected to colony dynamics, departures like the viral march provide insight into behavioral thresholds. Researchers see these events as windows into how instinct interacts with extreme environmental pressures. The viral penguin's journey inland is therefore a case study in the delicate balance between collective guidance and individual action. Experts emphasize that the behavior does not indicate intention in a human sense. Penguins are not capable of rational choice about isolation or defiance. The march reflects environmental pressures, instinctual responses, and rare neurological or physiological factors that temporarily disrupt normal behavior. Observations of similar departures, though short-lived, show that penguins usually correct their course or are redirected by the colony. The viral penguin, persisting over a long distance, is a rare and scientifically significant example of the limits of natural behavior in a species so dependent on social cohesion. Field notes underscore the importance of documenting such events. Each solitary departure offers data on endurance, movement patterns, energy conservation, and the impact of environmental variables. Researchers use these observations to refine understanding of navigation, group dependence, and responses to stress. The viral penguin's march provides a concentrated study in these dynamics, showing how environmental extremes, social isolation, and instinct interact. Scientists emphasize that understanding such behavior is critical for both ecological research and conservation planning, offering lessons about survival in one of the harshest habitats on Earth. Finally, scientific explanations for solitary marching combine multiple factors: disorientation, neurological stress, environmental obstacles, energy expenditure, and rare physiological conditions all contribute. Comparisons with other cases demonstrate how unusual this behavior is, while field observations illustrate the risks and consequences of leaving the colony. The viral penguin exemplifies a rare intersection of individual variation and environmental challenge, offering insight into both the resilience and vulnerability of emperor penguins. By studying these events, researchers gain a clearer understanding of survival, adaptation, and the delicate balance between instinct and environment in the Antarctic. The physiology of an emperor penguin is finely tuned to survive extreme conditions, yet even the hardiest adaptations can be tested by unusual circumstances like a solitary march inland. Their thick layer of fat, called blubber, insulates against freezing temperatures, while tightly packed feathers trap air to reduce heat loss. Still, prolonged exposure to cold without rest or food increases Stress on the body. Muscles must work continuously to move across uneven ice and snow, burning energy that cannot be replenished until the penguin reaches water and food. Field researchers note that fasting, combined with low temperatures, can impact both physical performance and neurological function, creating subtle effects on coordination, perception, and decision-making. Brain function under these conditions is particularly sensitive. The penguin's nervous system maintains balance, gait, and orientation. Temperature and energy reserves influence cognitive processes, though in a limited way. In solitary movement across the Antarctic interior, the penguin must process terrain features, avoid hazards, and maintain a steady course without guidance from the colony. Stress from the environment, including wind, snow, and uneven ice, further taxes the nervous system. Researchers suggest that cumulative fatigue can reduce the penguin's ability to interpret sensory input accurately, contributing to deviations from normal navigation. Each step becomes both a physical and neurological challenge, linking endurance to cognitive stability. Orientation is a complex task for penguins. Coastal colonies provide familiar landmarks, repeated paths, and social cues that guide daily movement. In contrast, the interior is largely featureless. Snowfields, ridges, and drifting ice create an environment where visual cues are minimal or inconsistent. Observations indicate that penguins may use a combination of visual memory, sun position, and possibly magnetic perception to maintain direction. When one of these mechanisms fails or becomes unreliable, as may have occurred in the viral penguin, the individual can wander far from the colony. Navigation errors in such an environment are amplified by the lack of correction from other penguins, emphasizing the limits of solitary orientation. Fasting adds another layer of challenge. A penguin that leaves the colony does not have access to its usual sources of food. Energy stores, primarily fat, are slowly depleted as the bird walks, balances, and negotiates obstacles. The brain, like all organs, requires energy to function properly. Reduced glucose availability can impair fine motor control and decision-making, subtly altering the penguin's ability to adjust to terrain or detect hazards. Scientists note that energy depletion, combined with cold stress and distance from food sources, creates a feedback loop where physical and neurological demands reinforce one another, increasing the difficulty of returning to familiar routes or correcting course. Cold itself imposes neurological constraints. Extreme temperatures slow chemical reactions in the nervous system, potentially affecting reflexes and coordination. Penguins are adapted to the Antarctic, but prolonged exposure in unusual conditions, such as a solo march, can test limits. Nerves controlling balance, gait, and posture must remain responsive, despite environmental stress. Observers note that the viral penguin maintains coordination remarkably well, suggesting strong physiological resilience. Yet even small inefficiencies in movement can increase energy expenditure and fatigue, emphasizing how close to the edge of survival the bird moves during its journey. Understanding intent in animal behavior remains a challenge. Scientists caution against attributing human motives to the viral penguin's march. While it may appear purposeful or even defiant, the behavior is more likely a product of disorientation, stress, and instinctual response to environmental cues. Neurological processes guide movement based on survival instincts, sensory input, and learned patterns. When these mechanisms are disrupted, behavior may appear irrational from a human perspective. Observing the penguin's gait, course, and persistence provides insight into the interaction between physiology and environment without implying conscious planning. The neurological basis for spatial awareness is also critical. Penguins process visual, tactile, and possibly magnetic information to maintain direction. In a group, errors are corrected by following neighbors. Alone, these corrective mechanisms are absent. A solitary penguin must rely solely on imperfect cues, balancing instinct, memory, and current sensory input. Misinterpretation of even minor cues can result in long deviations from the colony. The viral penguin's ability to maintain a continuous path, despite potential disorientation, demonstrates both the robustness and vulnerability of navigational instincts under extreme conditions. Stress affects more than orientation. The combination of cold, hunger, and isolation triggers physiological responses that can influence heart rate, hormone levels, and metabolism. Field researchers have measured elevated stress hormones in individuals facing environmental extremes, noting subtle impacts on movement and endurance. In the case of the viral penguin, stress likely contributed to persistence in a direction away from the colony, reinforcing behaviors that would normally be corrected by social interaction. These observations provide evidence for how stress can temporarily override typical social instincts, influencing both physical and neurological performance. Neurological studies also consider sensory limitations. Vision in bright snow can be challenging, with reflections and glare distorting perception. Hearing may be affected by wind and distance, limiting the ability to detect colony calls or predators. The penguin must integrate multiple senses to maintain balance and orientation. When one sense is compromised, reliance on others increases, and errors may occur. Observers note that even minor errors, repeated over long distances, can result in significant deviations, illustrating how delicate the balance between sensory input and neurological processing can be during solitary travel. Energy management interacts with cognitive function. Walking alone over ice requires constant adjustment to avoid slipping or sinking into soft snow. Muscles and joints respond to feedback from the nervous system, which relies on energy reserves to process information. When energy is depleted, coordination can falter, even if the penguin appears steady. The viral penguin maintains gait and balance over a remarkable distance, suggesting that instincts and physiological resilience compensate for challenges. Scientists emphasize that such endurance reflects an evolved capacity to withstand short-term stress, not an intentional plan to march inland. The limits of understanding animal intent also shape scientific interpretation. Researchers rely on observed behavior, physiological measurements, and environmental context to draw conclusions. While humans may see defiance or purpose, penguin behavior is rooted in instinct and immediate environmental response. The viral march illustrates how physiological and neurological pressures can produce extraordinary but explainable behavior. Each step represents a combination of muscular control, energy allocation, sensory input, and instinct, responding to a landscape that is both extreme and unfamiliar. Finally, the viral penguin's march demonstrates the interplay between body and brain under extreme conditions. Cold, fasting, and environmental stress influence both movement and cognition. Orientation mechanisms, while robust, can fail when typical cues are absent. Neurological processes drive balance, gait, and perception, but are limited by energy and stress. The penguin's journey illustrates the resilience and vulnerability inherent in the species, highlighting how extreme conditions can push natural behavior beyond usual patterns. By studying this phenomenon, scientists gain insight into physiology, neurology, and the subtle forces shaping survival in one of Earth's harshest environments. The observation of a penguin walking alone into the Antarctic interior is unusual, but it is not entirely without precedent. Field researchers have recorded rare instances of penguins wandering from their colonies in the past, though most departures are short-lived and corrected quickly by social cues. Juvenile penguins occasionally become separated during storms or after returning from their first short trips to the sea. In these cases, the individuals often appear disoriented, wandering aimlessly until they reconnect with the colony. Such observations are typically brief and sporadic, offering only limited insight into what drives solitary behavior. The viral march captured on film stands apart because it was continuous, visually striking, and well documented, allowing scientists to study behavior over a significant distance and duration. Other bird species occasionally display similar behavior. Gulls, for example, may stray from nesting colonies if food scarcity or environmental changes disrupt their routine. Albatross. Chicks sometimes leave nests prematurely, moving across terrain before they can fly. In each case, solitary wandering is rare, generally triggered by unusual environmental stress, inexperience, or temporary neurological conditions. Researchers note that these instances provide important comparative data, showing how social species maintain cohesion and how individual deviations reveal the limits of instinct. For emperor penguins, whose life depends so heavily on collective movement, the viral penguin represents an extreme of behavior, a vivid example of what happens when typical social mechanisms fail. Historical records of penguin colonies show that deviations, while rare, have always existed. Expeditions in the early 20th century occasionally reported lone penguins far from the colony, though documentation was limited. Observers described them as unusual, but provided few details about distance or survival outcomes. In modern studies, detailed field notes, GPS tracking, and careful observation allow scientists to collect precise information about wandering individuals. Each case contributes to a broader understanding of behavior, illustrating the interplay between social instinct, environmental pressures, and individual variation. The viral penguin thus fits within a long history of observing exceptions to the general rule of colony cohesion. Rare deviations are valuable for scientific observation because they provide contrast to normal patterns. Most of the time, emperor penguins move in highly predictable ways. Paths to feeding areas are repeated season after season. Breeding, chick rearing, and group movement follow established rhythms. A solitary individual disrupts this pattern, creating a natural experiment that allows observation of physiology, navigation, energy management, and stress responses outside the context of the colony. Scientists can measure how instincts function when social guidance is removed, providing insight that would otherwise be inaccessible. The viral penguin's march thus offers a rare lens into the adaptability and limitations of the species. Field studies rely on careful observation of both common and rare behaviors. Colony mapping, tagging, and monitoring allow researchers to identify patterns and track unusual events. Observing a solitary penguin provides context for understanding what is normal, what is possible, and what is extraordinary. The viral footage captures not just movement, but interaction with terrain, response to obstacles, and endurance under extreme environmental conditions. Scientists can analyze gait, energy expenditure, and decision-making processes, comparing them with baseline data from normal colony activity. This combination of visual evidence and field data is essential for a complete understanding of penguin behavior. Documentary footage has played a significant role in revealing natural behavior. In the case of the viral penguin, Werner Herzog's recording provides a continuous visual record that cannot be replicated by field notes alone. Observers can watch minute details of movement, posture, and interaction with the environment. The film captures the stark contrast between the social structure of the colony and the isolation of the individual. This allows both scientists and the public to appreciate the physical and psychological demands faced by a penguin removed from its normal context. Footage of rare events complements traditional research, providing a holistic view of behavior that written descriptions alone cannot convey. Historical context also informs interpretation. Earlier studies emphasize social behavior, mapping colony dynamics and group foraging strategies. Solitary behavior was often noted briefly, without detailed analysis. Modern observations, however, benefit from technology, allowing extended tracking and documentation. Each rare wandering case builds on prior knowledge, helping scientists understand triggers, physiological responses, and outcomes. The viral penguin's journey can be seen as a continuation of decades of field observation, a clear example of a phenomenon previously suggested but seldom witnessed with such clarity. Its march inland provides measurable data, including distance, terrain challenges, and persistence, enriching the historical record of penguin behavior. The significance of solitary behavior also extends to evolutionary study. Penguins evolved in harsh environments where group cohesion increases survival. Observing rare departures allows scientists to examine the consequences of removing social support. In the case of the viral penguin, the march demonstrates both the vulnerability and the physical capabilities of an individual outside the colony. By comparing with historical records, researchers can infer how natural selection shaped behavior, emphasizing cooperative survival and the dangers of solitary wandering. Each observed deviation, including this viral case, reinforces understanding of the balance between individual variation and species-wide adaptation. Documentary footage has also expanded public awareness of natural behavior. While field studies provide data for scientific analysis, video recordings bring the story to a wider audience. The viral penguin became a symbol of isolation, struggle, and endurance, illustrating complex ecological and behavioral phenomena in simple visual terms. Scientists note that such visibility can increase interest in field research, conservation, and understanding of animal behavior. While anthropomorphic interpretations may arise, the footage nonetheless provides a platform for education, discussion, and appreciation of species resilience and environmental challenges. Finally, historical and field context emphasizes the rarity and importance of the viral penguin's march. Solitary wandering has been documented before, but continuous movement across such distance and terrain is exceptional. Past records show that environmental stress, inexperience, or neurological factors can lead to short-term deviations. The viral footage captures a rare combination of endurance, isolation, and adaptation. Field observations, historical records, and documentary evidence together illuminate the boundaries of penguin behavior. By situating this event in context, scientists gain insight into survival strategies, physiological limits, and the role of social structure, creating a clearer understanding of both normal and extraordinary penguin life. The Antarctic environment shapes every aspect of penguin life. The ice is never still. Shifting sheets, broken flows, and wind-carved snow create a landscape that changes hour by hour. Emperor penguins are adapted to these conditions, relying on memory of terrain and social cues from the colony to navigate safely. Storms sweep across the plains with little warning, driving snow and ice into drifts that obscure familiar paths. Winds can reach high speeds, pressing against the penguins' bodies and reducing visibility. Even small changes in the ice surface, such as cracks or ridges, demand constant adjustment in movement. These environmental pressures shape behavior, making deviation from the group both risky and uncommon. Yet when solitary movement occurs, as in the viral penguin, it is precisely these environmental variables that interact with individual physiology and instinct to produce extraordinary behavior. Shifting ice presents specific challenges. Emperor penguins often walk across packed ice that is smooth and firm. However, the ice can fracture, revealing thin layers or hidden crevasses. Snow accumulates in drifts, covering obstacles or creating slippery surfaces. When a penguin walks alone, it must negotiate these hazards without the guidance of others. Small errors in footing can cost energy, or worse, lead to injury. Scientists note that over long distances, even minor challenges accumulate. The viral penguin traversed terrain, where ice and snow shifted continually, forcing careful adjustments in step, posture, and wing position. These adaptations demonstrate both the species' resilience and the physical demands imposed by the Antarctic interior. Storms further influence penguin behavior. Whiteouts reduce visibility to near zero, obscuring landmarks and disorienting even the most experienced individuals. Wind sweeps across the ice, creating sastrugi, sharp ridges that alter the surface. Temperature drops during storms, increasing the energy needed for movement and thermoregulation. Most penguins remain in the colony during severe weather, huddled together for warmth and protection. Solitary wandering during such conditions is rare and risky, but the viral penguin's footage suggests it persisted despite potential storms or gusts. Researchers note that stress from environmental conditions can combine with other factors, such as disorientation or fatigue, increasing the likelihood of unusual behavior in rare cases. Climate change subtly influences behavior as well. Ice coverage fluctuates year to year, affecting the availability of traditional feeding routes. Melting or shifting ice can force colonies to adapt movement patterns or travel greater distances to reach the sea. Food sources, such as fish and krill, may also shift in distribution. Penguins are sensitive to these changes, adjusting daily routines and routes accordingly. When environmental cues differ from previous experience, errors in navigation or timing can occur. The viral penguin's march may reflect a rare intersection of instinct, environmental change, and individual variation, demonstrating how climate and shifting ice influence behavior, even in highly adapted species. Food scarcity plays a subtle but important role. Most penguins rely on coordinated travel to reach the sea for feeding. Juveniles or adults separated from the group may experience hunger that alters movement patterns. In the viral penguin's case, the bird moved inland, away from traditional feeding grounds. While the reason for this specific direction remains uncertain, scientists note that changes in food availability can subtly stress colonies and individuals, affecting decision-making. Hunger interacts with stress and environmental conditions, creating circumstances where rare wandering may occur. Studying these factors helps researchers understand how energy management, foraging pressure, and survival instincts combine to shape behavior. The Antarctic ecosystem is complex, despite appearing stark and empty. Emperor penguins exist in a network of interdependent species, each influencing the other. Predators such as skuas and seals hunt near colonies or along the ice edge. Fish, squid, and krill populations fluctuate with sea ice coverage and ocean temperature. Changes in one part of the ecosystem ripple across the environment, influencing penguin feeding success, breeding, and movement. The viral penguin, isolated from its group, was removed from the safety and efficiency of this network. Its journey demonstrates how an individual can interact with the environment without the usual benefits provided by group behavior, highlighting the risks inherent in extreme conditions. Wind, temperature, and ice conditions shape daily routines. Penguins time their movements to conserve energy and maintain warmth. Huddling reduces heat loss, and coordinated travel to feeding grounds minimizes expenditure. Solitary travel eliminates these advantages, forcing constant adjustments. Each step consumes calories that cannot be replenished without access to food. The viral penguin's inland march demonstrates both the physiological stress of the environment and the neurological coordination required to navigate effectively. Researchers note that even small environmental changes, imperceptible to humans, can dramatically affect individual behavior in this context. Seasonal shifts add further complexity. During winter, the sun remains low, casting long shadows and creating visual distortions on ice and snow. Snow accumulation varies, sometimes rapidly altering the landscape. Spring brings melting ice and more accessible feeding routes. Penguins rely on internal timing and experience to navigate these seasonal changes. A solitary individual removed from its usual social and environmental cues may misinterpret or fail to recognize these signals, contributing to unusual movement patterns. The viral penguin's journey took place against a backdrop of constant environmental variation, highlighting how even small changes in terrain, light, or snow can influence navigation. Ice conditions also impact predator interactions. While the interior may have fewer immediate predators, hazards exist near open water or along ice edges. Skuas and other birds may follow feeding areas, posing threat to chicks or weakened adults. Traveling alone increases vulnerability, as group vigilance is absent. In addition, fractures in ice may expose the penguin to cold water or unstable footing. Field researchers emphasize that solitary movement amplifies exposure to these risks, combining environmental, physiological, and behavioral challenges into a single complex scenario. Temperature extremes remain a persistent influence. Antarctic lows test metabolic and thermoregulatory limits. Penguins maintain warmth through feather insulation and fat reserves, but extended activity in harsh conditions depletes energy. When traveling alone, adjustments to gait, posture, and wing extension are constant to maintain balance and reduce heat loss. Each movement is a negotiation with the environment, balancing speed, energy expenditure, and stability. The viral penguin demonstrates the species' ability to persist under extreme conditions, while also illustrating the fragility of survival when group support is absent. Observing solitary movement in this environment emphasizes the interconnectedness of Antarctic conditions and penguin behavior. Ice shifts, storms, food availability, and temperature create a dynamic setting where normal patterns are rarely disrupted. The viral penguin's march inland showcases the extreme edge of survival, where instinct, physiology, and environmental factors converge. By studying this event in the context of climate, terrain, and ecosystem, researchers gain insight into how penguins navigate challenges, conserve energy, and respond to changes in their surroundings, offering a detailed picture of life in one of the most demanding environments on Earth. Finally, the viral penguin provides a window into environmental influence. Each step reflects not just individual choice, but the pressures of shifting ice, storms, and seasonal conditions. The march highlights how extreme weather, terrain, and climate variability intersect with innate behavior, producing rare deviations from social norms. Understanding these interactions allows scientists to appreciate the delicate balance penguins maintain between survival, energy conservation, and environmental adaptation. The penguin's journey is a living demonstration of the influence of Antarctica itself, showing how climate and terrain shape even the most instinctually guided behaviors. The footage of the penguin walking alone toward the mountains quickly spread beyond the scientific community, capturing the attention of viewers around the world. People were drawn to the image of a single black and white body moving steadily across the endless white expanse. The contrast between the dense, bustling colony and the solitary march evoked strong emotional responses. Many described feelings of loneliness, struggle, and quiet determination. Social media amplified these impressions, turning the penguin into a symbol for human experiences of isolation, perseverance, and the challenges of confronting the unknown. The viral nature of the video transformed a scientific observation into a cultural touchstone, highlighting the ability of simple factual footage to resonate with broader audiences. Media outlets contributed to the penguin's viral status. News articles, online videos, and social posts highlighted the story, often framing it in emotional terms. Descriptions emphasized the difficulty of the journey, the harshness of the Antarctic environment, and the penguin's apparent courage or defiance. Herzog's narration in the original documentary lent a poetic weight to the footage, inviting reflection on life, survival, and the unknown. While the narration itself was observational, viewers often interpreted the penguin's behavior through a human lens. The combination of striking visuals, expert commentary, and emotive narration created a narrative that was both scientifically informative and culturally compelling. The viral spread also raised questions about interpretation. Many viewers anthropomorphized the penguin, attributing intention, emotion, or even philosophical meaning to its journey. This response is understandable, as humans naturally seek narrative and purpose in observed behavior. However, scientists caution against projecting human concepts onto animal actions. The penguin's movement is best understood in terms of physiology, neurological response, environmental pressures, and instinct. The viral fame of the footage demonstrates how observation can take on symbolic significance beyond the original scientific context. While anthropomorphism may enhance engagement and empathy, it can obscure the objective understanding of behavior. Despite these concerns, the public attention provided opportunities for education. The footage encouraged discussion about emperor penguins, Antarctic ecology, and behavioral science. Viewers became curious about migration patterns, colony dynamics, and environmental challenges. The viral penguin acted as a bridge between scientific research and public awareness, making otherwise remote and technical observations accessible. Teachers, communicators, and science writers used the video to illustrate concepts of adaptation, energy management, social cohesion, and the effects of extreme environments. In this way, media amplification served both emotional and educational purposes. Cultural meaning emerged in various contexts. Some interpreted the penguin as an example of individualism, resilience, or nonconformity. Others saw it as a reflection on vulnerability and mortality in harsh conditions. Artistic responses, including drawings, animations, and literary references, further amplified the penguin's symbolic presence. These interpretations often relied on the visual simplicity and clarity of the footage. The stark contrast of black and white against the Antarctic ice, the measured pace of movement, and the distant mountains created a tableau that was immediately compelling and easily adapted to metaphorical use. This transformation from biological observation to symbol demonstrates the interplay between natural behavior and human perception. Scientific observers monitored the viral spread with interest. While the popular interpretation often emphasized emotion and narrative, the footage provided rich material for research. Analysts could study gait, endurance, environmental interaction, and solitary behavior in detail. The viral attention allowed for wider dissemination of these observations, potentially inspiring future field studies or citizen science projects. By making a rare natural behavior visible to a global audience, the footage contributed to both public engagement and the accumulation of scientific knowledge. The viral penguin thus occupies a unique space where science and culture intersect. Ethical reflection emerged regarding anthropomorphism. Scientists stress that while the penguin appears to choose its path or display emotion, its actions are the result of instinct, environmental pressures, and neurological responses. Assigning human motives can misrepresent the behavior and potentially lead to misunderstandings about survival strategies. Nonetheless, the emotional resonance of the footage cannot be ignored. Public fascination can be harnessed responsibly to promote education and conservation awareness, provided interpretations remain grounded in observable facts. This balance between empathy and objectivity underscores the ethical considerations in communicating animal behavior to the public. The viral footage also highlighted the role of visual media in shaping perception. A short clip can convey complex environmental and behavioral information in a way that written reports or still images cannot. Viewers witnessed the interaction of the penguin with snow, wind, and ice, observing minute adjustments in gait and posture. These details are scientifically significant, showing how the animal responds to terrain and stress. At the same time, the narrative constructed around the footage emphasizes human interpretation, demonstrating how media can both inform and influence public understanding. The viral penguin thus serves as a case study in the power of visual science communication. Media amplification accelerated the cultural meaning of the viral penguin. Shares, likes, and comments created a feedback loop, reinforcing the image as a symbol of struggle and solitude. Popular interpretations often highlighted themes of courage, perseverance, and defiance of expectation. Some likened the march to philosophical or existential journeys, drawing parallels to human challenges in extreme or uncertain conditions. While these metaphors extend beyond scientific analysis, they reflect the universal resonance of observing life persisting in extreme circumstances. The penguin's journey illustrates the emotional power inherent in natural behavior when presented in a compelling visual form. Finally, the viral impact underscores the convergence of science, media, and public engagement. The penguin's march is both a rare behavioral event and a powerful narrative device. Footage captures the detail necessary for scientific observation, while simultaneously inviting emotional and cultural reflection. By studying the viral phenomenon, researchers and educators can explore the ways in which natural behavior is communicated, interpreted, and valued by society. The penguin becomes both a subject of scientific inquiry and a symbol of endurance, isolation, and resilience, bridging the gap between empirical observation and human perception. The viral penguin's journey thus demonstrates how a single moment in nature can ripple outward, influencing understanding, emotion, and awareness on a global scale. The viral penguin's march provides important lessons for science and conservation. Observing a solitary individual in extreme conditions offers insight into survival strategies that may not be visible in normal colony activity. Penguins rely on both instinct and social guidance, and when one moves alone, scientists can study how behavior adapts to unusual challenges. The bird's persistence across ice and snow illustrates flexibility in movement, energy management, and endurance. Researchers can examine step patterns, gait adjustments, and posture as indicators of how penguins cope with environmental stress. Such details, collected from rare events, enrich understanding of the species' limits and capabilities, contributing to broader ecological knowledge. Behavioral flexibility is essential for survival in Antarctica. Emperor penguins experience changes in food availability, ice conditions, and weather year to year. Most adaptations are observed in groups, as coordinated travel and huddling reduce risk and conserve energy. Yet the viral penguin shows how an individual might respond outside these social structures. By studying solitary behavior, scientists gain perspective on the inherent resilience of the species. The penguin's ability to navigate unfamiliar terrain, maintain balance, and sustain movement under extreme cold provides a window into how flexible instincts are when standard environmental cues and social guidance are absent. The implications extend to colony monitoring. Penguins are often tracked to study migration, breeding, and population health. Field studies rely on patterns of group movement to predict feeding routes and survival rates. A solitary penguin challenges assumptions about cohesion and predictability. By analyzing such rare events, researchers can refine models of movement and behavior, better accounting for outliers that may otherwise be overlooked. Understanding these deviations allows conservationists to develop more accurate monitoring techniques, ensuring that population health assessments consider both typical and exceptional behaviors. Ecosystem studies also benefit from observing rare solitary events. Penguins interact with a network of species, including prey, predators, and other seabirds. Changes in ice and sea conditions influence availability of fish and krill, while predators respond to shifts in colony behavior. A penguin removed from the colony experiences these factors individually, providing an isolated view of environmental pressures. Scientists can observe how terrain, weather, and prey scarcity affect movement and energy use without the modifying influence of social behavior. This can inform predictions about how colonies may respond to environmental stress or climate-driven changes in food distribution. Conservation policy is informed by such studies. Emperor penguins are sensitive to climate variation, ice melt, and human activity near breeding grounds. The viral penguin's behavior underscores the importance of understanding both group and individual responses to environmental challenges. Data on endurance, stress, and movement patterns contribute to risk assessments for populations under changing conditions. Policies regarding protected areas, human interference, and climate impact mitigation can be guided by knowledge derived from observing both typical and rare behaviors. The penguin's journey illustrates the complex ways individuals experience environmental pressures, which must be considered in conservation planning. Energy management is another critical lesson. The viral penguin demonstrates how energy reserves, body insulation, and gait adjustments interact to maintain movement under harsh conditions. Observing these adaptations informs conservationists about the physiological demands placed on penguins during abnormal activity. It also emphasizes the importance of stable food supply and safe travel routes. By comparing the energy costs of solitary versus group movement, researchers can better understand the consequences of environmental disruptions on individual survival and colony resilience. This knowledge helps identify which environmental changes are most critical to monitor and mitigate. Climate research intersects with these observations. Penguins are considered sentinel species, reflecting changes in sea ice, ocean temperature, and food availability. The viral penguin's behavior highlights the pressures of environmental variability. Even rare deviations indicate how sensitive the species is to small shifts in terrain, weather, and resource distribution. Studying such events provides insight into potential responses to climate change, including altered movement patterns, risk of isolation, and impacts on survival. Conservation efforts benefit from incorporating these extreme cases into predictive models, helping guide policy in a warming and changing Antarctic environment. Monitoring technological developments also gain relevance from this event. GPS tracking, remote cameras, and automated sensors allow scientists to observe movements over long distances. The viral penguin's march underscores the value of continuous observation, as rare behavior may otherwise go unnoticed. These tools help researchers understand both the boundaries of normal behavior and the exceptional cases. By integrating direct observation with technology, scientists can better track colony health, survival rates, and behavioral flexibility, informing more effective conservation strategies. The viral penguin also emphasizes resilience and vulnerability in context. Its endurance over long distances demonstrates the strength of natural adaptations, while the risks highlight the limits of survival outside the colony. Conservation strategies must recognize both aspects, preserving social structures and feeding routes while accounting for individuals at risk. Field studies and ecological modeling can incorporate lessons from rare events, ensuring that predictions of population dynamics are grounded in real behavioral extremes. Such knowledge allows managers to anticipate threats and adapt interventions to protect the species effectively. Finally, the viral penguin exemplifies how observation, science, and conservation intersect. Its journey teaches about survival strategies, behavioral flexibility, and the interaction of physiology and environment. By documenting solitary movement, scientists refine models of energy use, navigation, and risk. These lessons inform colony monitoring, ecosystem studies, climate research, and policy decisions. Understanding both typical and rare behaviors ensures that conservation efforts are comprehensive, grounded in observation, and responsive to the challenges penguins face in a rapidly changing world. The viral march thus offers not just a striking image, but a rich source of scientific insight and practical guidance for protecting one of Earth's most extraordinary species. As the viral penguin continued its solitary march, observers reflected on the remarkable intersection of observation, science, and the natural world. The journey of a single bird, moving steadily across ice and snow, illuminates more than the behavior of one individual. It offers insight into survival strategies, the power of instinct, and the influence of environment on living creatures. Watching the penguin navigate the Antarctic interior provides a lens into how animals respond to extreme conditions, both individually and as a species. Each step demonstrates a balance of endurance, neurological coordination, and physical adaptation, revealing a quiet, patient story of resilience and vulnerability. Field researchers recognize the value of this observation. Through detailed notes and careful analysis, scientists can connect the penguin's behavior to broader ecological and physiological patterns. The viral march offers a rare view of a deviation from group behavior, shedding light on the boundaries of social cohesion and the mechanisms guiding navigation, energy use, and stress response. By studying how the penguin maintains movement, adjusts posture, and negotiates terrain, researchers gain insight into how species survive in a harsh and unpredictable environment. The individual's journey, while exceptional, reinforces understanding of normal patterns and the resilience built into emperor penguin biology. Beyond the scientific perspective, the viral penguin invites reflection on the role of instinct. Even without guidance, the bird moves purposefully, relying on evolved behaviors honed over millennia. Instinct drives balance, step placement, and orientation, showing how natural selection shapes survival strategies. Yet the journey also exposes limits. Solitary travel increases risk, depletes energy, and separates the penguin from critical social support. The interplay of instinct, physiology, and environmental stress illustrates the delicate balance required to survive. Observing this balance allows a deeper appreciation of both the strengths and vulnerabilities inherent in life at the edge of the natural world. Environmental conditions remain central to interpretation. Ice, snow, wind, and temperature interact continuously with physiology and behavior. The viral penguin's path underscores how extreme conditions shape movement, challenge energy reserves, and test neurological function. Each adjustment in posture, each careful step across uneven ice, reflects the constant negotiation between internal capacity and external forces. This relationship highlights the intricate connection between organism and habitat, demonstrating how survival is contingent on both adaptation and circumstance. The penguin's march is an observable testament to these forces in action, a microcosm of life in one of Earth's harshest regions. The journey also serves as a bridge between observation and understanding. By watching the penguin, scientists and the public alike gain insight into Antarctic life that would otherwise be abstract or remote. The viral footage provides continuous, real-time documentation of a rare behavior, offering an unparalleled view of endurance, environmental interaction, and solitary survival. Observers can note every gait adjustment, posture shift, and response to terrain. These details enrich scientific knowledge, complementing data from GPS tracking, colony observation, and physiological measurements. The footage transforms a single behavioral anomaly into a broader educational and research opportunity. Reflection on the viral penguin also brings ethical and interpretive considerations. While humans often project narrative or intention onto the bird, the underlying reality is rooted in instinct, physiology, and environmental interaction. Recognizing this distinction emphasizes the importance of accurate observation. Anthropomorphic interpretation can enhance emotional resonance, but must be balanced with factual understanding. The penguin's march is neither heroic nor tragic in human terms. It is a natural outcome of biological systems responding to a unique set of circumstances. This perspective strengthens scientific rigor, while allowing meaningful reflection on endurance, adaptation, and isolation. The viral penguin also provides insight into conservation awareness. The journey highlights how delicate the balance of life is in extreme ecosystems. Ice conditions, food availability, and climate influence both normal and exceptional behavior. By studying individual deviations like the viral march, researchers can better anticipate responses to environmental change and guide protective strategies. Understanding how stress, energy expenditure, and isolation interact informs conservation planning, ensuring that policies address both average behavior and extraordinary events. The penguin's story is a vivid illustration of the connections between environment, biology, and species resilience. From a broader perspective, the viral penguin offers lessons about observation itself. It demonstrates the importance of careful recording, thoughtful analysis, and patient attention. The footage captures nuances that may otherwise be missed, from the subtle adjustment of feet on soft snow to the steady rhythm of movement across ice. Each of these details contributes to understanding how living beings navigate extreme conditions. Observing rare events enriches scientific knowledge, providing examples of adaptability, endurance, and behavioral flexibility. The viral march reminds viewers that careful attention to nature reveals complexity, depth, and meaning, even in what appears to be simple movement. Finally, the viral penguin becomes a symbol without requiring human narrative. Its journey across the Antarctic interior highlights the challenges of isolation, the demands of survival, and the elegance of instinct in action. While the public may interpret the march in emotional terms, the scientific perspective emphasizes observation, physiology, and environmental context. The penguin's path illustrates resilience in the face of harsh conditions, the role of energy management, and the limits of solitary endurance. As a natural event, it offers a mirror to broader ecological processes, demonstrating how life persists, adapts, and responds to environmental pressures in measurable, observable ways. The story of the viral penguin concludes as both a case study and a reflection. It integrates observation, science, and contemplation, demonstrating the connections between instinct, environment, and endurance. Each step of the march serves as a data point, a lesson, and a testament to survival in extreme conditions. The footage, now familiar around the world, invites continued study, teaching, and appreciation of the subtle interplay between biology and environment. In observing the penguin, scientists gain knowledge, the public gains perspective, and the story of life persisting under extraordinary circumstances is made vivid and immediate. The viral penguin remains a living reminder of how individual behavior can illuminate universal truths about adaptation, resilience, and the natural world.